You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Of course, you have all this conversation dealing with critical race theory. 1619 Project, folks, is not critical race theory. And one of the folks who has spoken out, we talked about this last Friday, was a black woman from Florida talking to the State Board of Education about critical race theory not teaching the truth. Keisha King is political consultant and co-chair of Moms for Liberty, and she joins us right now. Keisha, glad to have you in Roland Martin Unfiltered. First and foremost, what exactly is critical race theory, and is it being, where was it being taught in Florida schools?
So critical race theory is the idea that America, the foundation of America is, racism is ingrained into the foundation and it cannot be removed. And so the outworkings of that today and in classrooms is that, this is a very simple way to say it, but white heterosexual men, able-bodied, are deemed the oppressors, and everyone else is deemed oppressed. And you can't get away from that. It is what it is because of the idea that racism is ingrained into the fabric of America, that you can't repent from it, you can't move forward from it, and it's there to stay.
Actually, what you just said is not true. So this is what the folks at Ed Week have laid out. Critical race theory is an academic concept that is more than 40 years old. The core idea is that racism is a social construct. Is that true or false? Is racism a social construct?
I do believe that, yes. Racism is a social.
All right. And it says that it is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something embedded in legal systems and policies. Do you believe that racism is embedded in legal systems and policies in the United States?
I do not.
Do you believe that racism is embedded in housing policies in the United States?
No, because people run these systems. And so we would have to say that racism is embedded into people if we are going to say it's embedded into these systems.
Well, so
abstract. They are actually run by human beings.
But if the individuals are actually running the system and then it's being implemented, then it's still in the system. So, for instance, when you talk about housing in your state of Florida, there have been stories where African Americans, there was one woman who was married to a white gentleman where an appraiser came out to their home and gave them a far less value on their home when they removed all of everything in their house that identified as black. Then a second appraiser came out. There was a higher valuation on their home. Is that racism?
I'm not sure, but I mean, I certainly know that racism exists.
But hold on,
hold on.
you're not sure. You're not sure that if an appraiser comes out and gives a lower home appraisal, and after meeting the black woman, the black wife, but then when they brought a second appraiser out, the black wife was nowhere to be found. They removed all pictures of her in the home. They removed anything black art or whatever. Then all of a sudden there was a higher appraisal value. Same house, exact same house, but all of a sudden it's got a higher appraisal value. Is that not racism in housing?
For me, I would have to have more information. That doesn't necessarily mean that it could be racism.
Well, what do you think it is? What do you think it is?
I don't know, but I wasn't there. I would have, for me, I would have to have more information.
So let me ask you this question: Do you believe that systematic redlining of communities where black people live, is that racism?
Redlining?
Yes.
Yes, that was racism.
Isn't that systematic? Because that was a system that was actually imposed by banks. It was imposed by the federal government. It was actually a part of federal policy. Is that not racism?
That was the law at a point in time. However, today, in 2021, where we have many more diverse people that run these corporations, we have much more of a diverse. My bottom line is America has progressed. We are not the same country that we were.
Of course not. But we're
centuries ago. So that doesn't mean that when we see disparities, it automatically is an implication of racism.
So let me ask you this question.
It's not always that the case.
Okay, so if you're seeing disparities, in terms of in this country, if you're seeing disparities in terms of African Americans, whether in executive suites, if you're seeing that, if you're seeing the same thing in other areas, what would you attest to? If you all of a sudden you look at Silicon Valley, if you see in companies on the West Coast, and you see 1.5% or even fewer black folks working at those companies, what do you say is the problem?
I would say that we should encourage our community to get more involved with STEM, math, science. But we don't need to be teaching that we're permanently in a state of oppression.
But Keisha,
we need to be teaching math.
But Keisha, do you even know that 60% or more of the jobs in Silicon Valley have nothing to do with STEM?
Regardless, I mean, they're not.
No.
Doesn't necessarily mean that they're all white either, because a lot of these people are from India. A lot of them are Asian, so they're not. It's not that they're just white people running these things. I mean, there are other
so that's not problematic
that have dominance in those industries as well. And I just believe that we should be afforded those same opportunities.
But right there,
to progress into those industries.
But right there, you said we should be afforded those opportunities. There have been African Americans who have worked at companies like Google and Facebook who were there on the recruitment side, who have said that those companies refuse to hire and recruit from HBCUs, refuse to have programs. And so black folks who worked in those companies, who were advocates, who said that what you just described, we should have an opportunity, what they say is opportunity was not given. They wouldn't even, and in fact, what they would even do is they would even have a sliding scale, would go, oh, because they didn't come from Stanford or Harvard, yeah, that's not going to work. So when you say the opportunity, but isn't that also racist when you don't even want to recruit from HBCUs, when you look at an HBCU education as less than, when you're not providing those level of opportunities, when you're they don't fit into our culture? What do you ascribe that then?
I mean, these are individual circumstances. I'm not going to blanket the entire black community as being less than because.
I'm sorry, I didn't say less than, but that's them.
Telling me that they didn't, because I know plenty of success. I'm looking at you. You're a very successful black man.
Well, guess what?
Plenty of very successful. But
hold up.
I'm not saying that is without struggle. I'm not saying that is without competition.
No.
That is without any of those things.
But you left out racism. But you left out racism.
I don't believe that racism is our primary problem in America today.
No, but that's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. What I'm saying is, but you did leave out racism. See, because what you don't know is that when I was an intern at the TV station in Bryan College Station, Texas, when a weekend sports anchor job came open at KBTX, the sports director, the assistant sports director, the 5 p.m. producer, the 6 p.m. producer, the 10 p.m. producer, they were like, yo, Roland's the best one for the job. The white male news director made it clear he was not going to hire a black male. His dear friend, investigative reporter Alice Brown, took me on a walk and said he's not going to hire you. Now, did that somehow stop me? No, but here's what I will say. Did that actually have an impact? First of all, it impacted me economically because I did not get that particular job while I was in college. But here's the whole point. Why should racism prevent me from being able to get a job? Yeah, the guy's name was Jeff Braun. I still call his name out. And it was undeniable. I'm talking about, like, it wasn't even close in terms of who was best. And so that was an example that I personally experienced in terms of racism in my career as a student at Texas A&M. And what I'm saying to you is that exists. I have been in media since I was 13 years old. Racism exists in media. I have seen editors choose not to hire folks based upon race. So to act like it doesn't exist, when you look at the numbers, it's undeniable in media when white men dominate the C-suite and very few of us are able to get through the ladder. It's real, but to you say those are individuals.
Mr. Martin, one of the very first things I said was that racism exists. So I never said that racism does not exist.
No, but you said not in system.
As long as we're on this side of heaven, there will always be racism. There will always be murder. There will always be horrible, awful things. And what I am saying is that we are the most successful black people, black Americans are the most successful black people in the entire world. And so what I am saying is that it is insulting for us to be in the most successful country in the world, the most progressive people in the world, for people to tell us that we are in a perpetual state of oppression is an insult. I am not telling my child that they are limited by their skin color. I will never tell my children or myself.
Is that what critical race theory does?
It's a burden to me.
Is that what critical race theory does? Because again, you spoke at the Florida State Board of
Critical race theory is the idea that racism is ingrained into the nation and all the institutions, and there is in all the organizations, and there is no way to remove it. And how it's outworking in today and in the classrooms is that white people are deemed the oppressor, which means that they just have this superiority.
I'm sorry. Where is that? Where in Florida?
And we're just automatically oppressed.
Where in Florida is critical race theory being taught? Where?
In my daughter's school, which I heard her teacher teaching. They don't have a critical race theory book.
So hold on. One second. Hold on, 1 second.
Open up your critical race
no, hold on 1 second. 1 second. Okay.
They're not saying
No, 1 second. 1 second. You said you heard your daughter's teacher teach critical race theory. Critical race theory is not being taught critical race theory is being taught on the college level. So what are you associating as critical race theory? Because, for instance, there are a lot of people like, Senator Tom Cotton and others. They think the 1619 Project is critical race theory. It's not. Do you believe the 1619 Project is critical race theory?
If you are teaching that racism is ingrained into the system of America, that is the basis of critical race theory.
No, it's not. No, you're wrong.
If you read Derek Bell, if you read Kimberly Crenshaw with the intersectionality, if you study what they write, that is what they are teaching.
Hold on.
Idea from critical theory, from legal theory. This is not new. This started
Yes,
in Germany.
it's a legal theory.
Yes, it is a theory. We teach evolution theory. Theories are taught in school.
No. But this particular legal theory is not being taught in the curriculum in Florida. Where?
Mr. Martin, I heard a recording from my daughter's classroom where her teacher was teaching the theories of critical race theory. I heard this for myself. When her first week in school, she was asked what pronoun she wants to be identified as. She never.
That's not critical race theory.
Said, hold on one second. That is what I never said that was critical race theory. But the idea that was being presented to her is what made my alarm go off. And so I started to tell her about some different things because I've been studying this for over a year now. I'm not new. This is not a new concept to me. And because I understood how it starts to come into conversations and things like that, I knew what to look out for. And she on her own recorded this conversation because I've been teaching my children of what to look out for. And so, yes, it is not an official curriculum, but it is being weaved into official curriculum, which is exactly what I heard her language arts teacher teach on that day. And in Duval County, in Jacksonville, we had a segregated assembly that was put on by a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, where she was going to segregate the black children from the white children.
Why?
I am sorry.
Hold on, wait.
I don't care why.
Hold on, wait. Wait. Why? No, what was it? No, I'm asking. No, I'm asking. Wait, no, one second. Keisha, 1 second. You said a diversity consultant was doing this. I'm asking the question, why? What was she trying to teach? What's the why?
When someone is segregating people what about the biracial children? Where do they go?
I'm asking. No. You're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. Why? What was the exercise? What was the exercise?
They never said why she did it. They said this is what's being done.
No. Did you ask why?
There is no reason.
No. Did you ask why?
There is no reason to segregate people by race.
So hold on 1 second. Have they ever?
We are not even. I'm 20% European. You probably have whites in your family.
First of all, white folks in slavery slept with a whole bunch of slaves, so we already know how that goes. But I'm still trying to get back to, because again, you're not answering the question, because I still would like to know. Okay, when they did this assembly, what was the basis? What was it? Did you ask?
There was no explanation. Emails went unanswered.
No. Did you ask?
Explanation. When parents, black, white, and others, heard about the segregation of their children by color, that was a problem, regardless of the reason.
Did you ask? Now, can you answer my question? Did you ask?
A good reason to segregate kids by color.
Okay, Keisha, if there was an assembly and they separated boys and girls, would you be objecting?
No, it depends on
Wait, hold up. So you're objecting, and you didn't ask why. You're objecting if there was an assembly separated by race. But you have no questions if it was gender. Why?
Because there are distinct differences between girls and boys.
Well, wait a minute. Hold up. Are there distinct differences?
And a white boy. What is the distinction between a black girl and a white girl? What is the distinction between a biracial girl
I'm still trying to understand. Have you ever heard of the
distinct differences? Our brains are even made up differently. Unless you think you agree with some of these.
It's interesting.
People are intrinsically different or lower or somehow different than other people, I cannot understand how you could think that there would be any good reason to segregate people by race.
I find it interesting that you would not. I find it interesting.
Why would we segregate people by race?
I find it interesting that you would object. I find it interesting that you would say, oh, no, I wouldn't object to an assembly that was girls and boys, but you objected one based upon race. And you still haven't answered my question. Why? What was the purpose of this of them separating? What was it?
I don't know the reason. I don't have to know the reason.
No. Did you ask?
There is no reason.
Did you ask? So wait a minute. Okay, see, now I'm confused because you wouldn't ask why a separate assembly for boys and girls, but now you wouldn't. But you said I would have to ask if it was about race. That makes no sense.
I think it's very obvious, and boys and girls are different. And there are legitimate things that boys experience at certain ages and legitimate things that girls experience at certain ages. So maybe, yes, there would be a reason to, biological reasons why you would want to, segregate the children by gender. That makes sense. But to segregate people by race, what is the difference other than more or less melanin? There's no intellectual difference. There is no, what is the difference between black children, white children, Asian children, Hispanic children, and all different types of people? What's the difference that skin color has to do with your ability to learn, with your ability to reason, with your ability to do anything in society? Would be a good reason to separate people by the color of their skin?
Well,
this is what we did back in the 1800s. I don't think we want to go back there. I certainly don't. And I would try to tell my kids that any person is better than them based on skin color. And I can't believe that you would even think that that is something acceptable.
Well, first of all, first of all, I use my brain. And what I do is my first response is oh my God, this is no. I would then go, the first I would say is, why? What's the basis behind it? Now, are you speaking about what was taking place at Douglas Anderson? Is that the school?
Correct, at Douglas Anderson.
So this took place at their School of Arts. And so what the school stated is that there were cultural issues that have arisen at the particular school. And the email states that one meeting will be for students of color, and the other will be for white students. It also reads about working together, we can all create the best DA. And so what they laid out in here was that this is, quote, over the last year, there's been tons of attention that has been drawn to the racial divide and tension at Douglas Anderson, and there were efforts made to try and pull things together, mend wounds, and improve relationships. But when I saw the memo, I couldn't believe it was like we took a step back. This is from LaToya Gunn. Now, her daughter has said that she's heard other students, white students, use the N-word. And so if they were trying to sit here and so are there racial tensions at the school? Have you talked to other black parents and white parents?
Yeah, I talked to many black parents. My daughter went to the junior high that would be before she goes to.
Are there racial tensions there?
I've never heard of any racial tensions before this particular incident. And even still, even if there were racial incidents,
I'm asking.
Why would you segregate the children by race?
Well, actually, it doesn't, Keisha. So, Keisha, because let me
Mr. Roland,
allow me as somebody who has dealt with some of these similar issues. It's very similar when in the workplace, where in an environment where a certain group, women, Latinos, African Americans, others, who might feel as if there are fundamental problems going on. You may have a group of black employees that meet with leadership, who meet with the boss. That actually happens. We did that when I was at CNN, where these things happen. In fact, Fox News, in June of last year, a group of black employees actually came together and held a meeting with the executive leadership of Fox News to complain about racism and other issues at Fox News. There was a discrimination suit that was actually filed by black employees at Fox News. So what you're actually describing, those meetings actually do happen, because what it does is it allows for leadership to actually hear from an aggrieved group to understand what is going on. So what you're saying is you didn't hear of any racism, but according to stories that are done, other black parents have talked about racial tension at this particular school. So if that's the case, do you believe that if there's racial tension in a place, that a group of black students should be able to gather to express their feelings directly to the leadership of the school? Should that happen?
If the individuals affected, black, white, other, whatever
No, that's
you
not
are,
what I asked
if you
you.
want
No. I asked you a
I am
specific
answering
question.
the question. If you want to take,
No.
if you want to take that grievance to the leadership of an organization, a school, wherever it may be, by all means, go ahead. But to take the entire organization and say, even if you had nothing to do with it, even if you're not experiencing the same thing, and just say, we're going to separate the black folks over here and put the white folks over there, how is that
actually, first of all,
racial tension?
Well, first of all, according to the school memo, it was white students and people of color, so people of color includes more than black people. But I'm going to go back to ask you the other question. If there was an issue where girls at this school had a fundamental issue, would you have a problem if the girls met separately from the boys?
I would say it again. If those girls, the specific girls who had a problem, I don't think you should round up every girl just because some girls had a problem.
But that's totally different what you said earlier.
Some girls are not experiencing. That's exactly what I said. You should take the individuals that it was affecting and let them go to leadership. Take the individual girls, boys, whoever. Let them go to leadership. Why are we rounding up everybody as if we all think the same and we don't have any type of autonomy or self?
Earlier you said you have no problem with a separate girls' assembly, separate boys' assembly. You said out your own mouth, oh, there are differences.
Mr. Martin, these are two totally different questions that
No. You literally said. You objected.
Did I think that girls and boys should be segregated at any point in time? And I said, yeah, okay, I can see where girls and boys could be separated. If you're talking, you may want to talk about getting your cycle. Boys don't experience that. Or, boys going through different things that they go through biologically. I can understand a grouping of
So you can
that happens to every girl.
So you can understand that, but you can't understand a group of white students, a group of people of color, and talking about the issues they may be facing. And here's the deal: if you're black or Latino and you go to the meetings of people of color, you can stand up and actually say, "Hey, I've had no issues, no problems here at the school. It's been great and wonderful." What's the problem?
I'm just saying that why do you have to drag everybody in? If it's a specific issue to those people who experience that issue, why can't we let them sort it out? Why are we trying to make this like that every person who identifies within that group or maybe associated within that group, that they automatically have the same issue?
Because probably if you've had such a widespread issue, you cast a wide net. But then again, you still had no problem with the group meeting. I'm still going to go back to this here because this is still very interesting. You talk about critical race theory, and what we're seeing across this country, we're seeing folks just lump everything in together. Any conversation, so anything dealing with race, and that to me is what the folly is. The reality is, in Florida schools, just like in Texas, in Oklahoma, and Arkansas, critical race theory was not being taught. It was not in the curriculum. It was not there. And so, since I'm gonna use your example, Let me just use your example of, well, if this group has a problem, then take it up with them. So if you had a problem with one teacher saying something to your child, why pass a statewide ban on critical race theory when it didn't even exist? Why? If it's only your child or a couple of others, I'm using your setup. Why do a mass ban if there's only a handful of examples? Why?
This is not being taught to just a few individuals.
It's not being taught at all.
How do you know that, Mr. Martin?
Critical race theory is not in the curriculum in Florida.
Like I said, there is no book that they have. It's not an official.
Okay, so how many teachers are teaching it in Florida?
Two.
Okay,
so for instance,
how many teachers in Florida are teaching critical race theory off the books? How many?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but stop. You're not sure. So you went before the State Board of Education and supported a statewide ban on something that you could not quantify.
Yes, because anytime you try to segregate people by their race and say
that's one school.
Group of people
No, Keisha. No, Keisha. That's one school.
Racism,
no, Keisha.
Roland.
Keisha. So Keisha, wait a minute. Hold up. Let's stay right there.
Clearly,
so
you've been talking about it.
So wait a minute. You're now contradicting yourself.
No, I am
you
not.
are. You just said if a group of people have a problem at a school, the administrator should only take it up with those people and not do a full assembly, right? That's what you said, right?
What I said was, if there is a specific issue, you were specifically talking about the Douglas Anderson case where there was a specific issue. I was speaking to that. As far as critical race theory, which is a separate issue, what I'm
but
saying
it's not being taught.
This is being widely, yes, it
and
is.
I asked you how widely? How widely? How widely?
I don't know.
Wait. Hold up.
In my daughter's school.
Hold up. 1%. Hold up. You gave me one teacher. So is it 5%? Are 5% of all teachers in Florida doing this? Do you know? Is it 10%?
So if I was to say, okay, well, there's only 2% of racist people in the United States Congress, are you going to be like, oh, well, we don't have to worry about that because it's only 2%?
No. I'm using your example.
I don't want racist teachings anywhere in American classrooms.
Here's the problem. You contradicted yourself. You supported a statewide ban on something that's not even being taught because your child recorded one teacher. You can't even answer. You literally cannot even answer how widespread is it. You said, I don't know. So your deal is, I don't, you sound like...
You're okay with some racism teachings, as long as it's not widespread.
No, here's the deal, Keisha. Okay. I'm going to use your example. Since you had a problem with one teacher, Keisha should have gone, oh, she hung up, y'all. See what happens? This is what happens, y'all. Did she hang up or did our system go out? She hung up. See, this is what happened, y'all, when you're busted. Okay, I got another guest coming up, but pull up my panel and tell my next guest to hold on, because I'm going to go to them. This is what happens when you're busted. This is what happens when you contradict your own argument. If Keisha had a problem with a teacher saying something in the classroom, she should have gone to the principal and then the school board. She supported the passage of a bill across the entire state because of two incidents. And then, Teresa, she couldn't answer, how widespread is this? How widespread is it? I don't know. She sounds like Republicans saying, yeah, we're going to pass new voting laws. We ain't got proof, but what the hell? We're just going to pass it.
Yeah, I mean, Keisha, is obviously, I looked at her social media account while you guys were discussing, because I was just so curious about, where some of her ideas of how she came across this topic. And part of it is, even in her, mini bio, and it goes to a point here, but the mini bio, it says, rising star in the GOP, it's just, mom, so, and then if you go on the timeline, it says, she was just on a program with Fox News. And so, again, I understand her profile. So I understand she is on message. But what I don't understand is the ignorance that we choose to have. I think education is a strong component here. I think most of it she was grasping, but then the contradiction of what she was saying also put her backwards in her original position. Because you can't agree with some portions of, well, I agree, well, I disagree with them separating blacks and whites, but I agree with them separating girls and boys. Like that, it just doesn't make sense, because what happened to the kids where, that they want to choose who they want to be? Or, so, I mean, there's so many issues here, and I think that's really just surrounding her statement. But again, it also shows that the GOP is not
bring her on. Okay, all right. So apparently Keisha wants to get back on. So Keisha, come on back. But here's the deal, Ben. I stand by my position. You can't support a statewide ban, every school district, every classroom, because of one teacher and your daughter.
Yeah, I would like to ask Sister Keisha if we found more provable instances of racism than she found of provable instances of critical race theory being taught. Would she support the existence of critical race theory? I mean, since it's like almost like an all or none proposition with her. Because then my second question would be, when's the last time she actually can say that she personally experienced racism in this country? Because I think she's vacillating back and forth between racism as an individualist construct, something that an individual is responsible for. And that's usually what conservatives do to make sure that this structural system is never held accountable, by saying, oh, that's an individual racist problem. So I do want to kind of know if we found more examples of racism than she found of examples of critical race theory, would she go before the board and support critical race theory?
Hey, y'all, what's the status of Keisha? All right. So let me do this here, y'all. Okay, we gonna come back later in the show with part 2 with Keisha. Okay, so is my next? Okay, she's picking up now. Okay, because I still want to know again how. Okay, Keisha, you there?
I don't know what happened, sorry.
Okay, so I'm still. So Ben Dixon, you had a question for Keisha. So, Ben, go ahead and ask her the question, and let's see if she answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's a simple question. If we were to show you provable, objective examples of racism, more examples of racism than you found examples of critical race theory being taught, would you go before the Board of Education with the same energy and the same fervor and demand that we do something about racism, since you put that metric out there in terms of how many times you saw critical race theory being taught?
I would stand up against racism anytime I saw it, absolutely. I'm not for racism, and I know that it exists. That's not what I'm saying. So yes, I would stand up against racism. That's what I'm doing now.
So you see more of a problem in the racism of your perceived racism of the 1619 Project, critical race theory, than any.
No, not 1619 Project, not 1619 Project.
But the conflation of the two.
Right. No, but so again,
because it's not the same.
I still just want to know, what is the percentage of, again, these examples you're using? How many are we talking about? 5, 20, 100, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000? This thing that you're describing that your daughter experienced, how rampant is it in Florida?
If it is any at all, I have a problem.
So
anybody is trying to tell children that they are in a perpetual state of oppression by a racial group, I don't care what the color is, that is racism.
So Keisha, Keisha, if there are 5 examples, Keisha, if there are 5 examples in the whole state, instead of the principal or the school board handling that, your answer is ban it across the state. Even though I don't know.
That would just like saying, well, there was only one hanging, so why do we need to ban hanging people? hanging black.
Okay, but see,
I'm saying
that makes no sense. That literally makes no sense.
Okay.
Because again though, because hold up, I'm using your language. I'm using your language. You said that if there were a group of students or a group of people on a job who had an issue, that group of people should go to the superiors at that school to deal with it. You said, and not have a block-wide assembly. And what I'm saying to you is, if there are a group of parents who are objecting to a group of teachers, why not deal with those teachers and that principal, as opposed to say to the State Board of Education, oh, we're just gonna ban this thing across the state that actually doesn't even exist in the state? You do not see how you literally are contradicting yourself?
Okay. Well, if you don't believe that it exists, and if you really don't think that it is a problem, at this point, I'm not sure.
No. See, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'm gonna use a legal standard. In order for Roland to show, if I want to do a class action lawsuit, I have to show that there are multiple people who have been harmed. I have to actually show, I gotta have evidence. I gotta have data to say, oh, this isn't one case of Roland being harmed. No, here are multiple examples of African Americans who have been denied. What I'm saying to you is, you can't even provide that to me. You can't even tell me that 5,000 teachers or 7,000 teachers or 100 teachers. All you have is one teacher recorded with your daughter, and you stood up at a State Board of Education meeting and supported a statewide ban based upon one instance of your daughter. And I'm using your example. Why didn't you, versus have the state ban it, why didn't you go to the principal and the school district and say, I have a problem, let's deal with it here, as opposed to say, oh, let's do it? Because guess what? There are a bunch of schools and teachers who don't do what you do. So now you passed a law that impacts them, and they have nothing going wrong. Do you not see the contradiction?
If they're not teaching it, then they don't have to worry about it.
You already said they're not teaching critical race theory in the district. You said they're teaching it unofficially.
That's right. And there's many.
And how many teachers are unofficial? Keisha, answer my question. How many teachers?
If teachers are teaching
Keisha, answer my question, Keisha. How many teachers?
I don't know that answer.
Keisha.
I don't know, because
you're admitting. So Keisha, you are admitting you do not know how many teachers in Florida are teaching unofficially critical race theory. All you know is one.
No, that is my personal experience.
Okay, how many then? Give me a number. How many?
There are many parents.
How many? No. I don't want many. Give me a number. What's many? 10, 30, 50, 100?
Parents who have seen things in their schools.
How many?
Hundreds.
How many?
Just in my universe.
How many?
Countless stories.
How many? No, I didn't ask for countless or many. How many?
I don't have a number.
So you have a number. How many school children in Florida?
You're right.
No, Keisha, how many school children in Florida?
In the Duval County School District?
No, in the whole state.
I'm not sure. Millions.
Okay.
Sure.
There are nearly 3 million students in public schools in Florida. And you supported a statewide ban that's not even impacting you, and you can't give a number. But you said that you object to an assembly being people of color and whites, and you said that if you have a problem, they should meet with only the affected people. Do you not see the contradiction in your own statement?
No, I do not, and here is why.
Okay.
Because you have individual isolated incidents where there is no the part that you're missing, Mr. Martin, is that even though it's not written in curriculum, this is your same argument that racism is everywhere. It's not written into law, but it's still everywhere, according to you.
No, actually, you're wrong. Because when I look at Georgia voter suppression law, when I look at Texas, and I look at the fact that the Texas voter ID law, 5 federal judges deemed it discriminatory against minorities and ruled it unconstitutional, I would say that's writing it into law. So you're wrong.
You're stating that.
No, what I'm stating is that 5 federal judges ruled the Texas voter ID law was unconstitutional and discriminated against minorities. So what I'm arguing is that law that was written, yeah, that was discriminatory as it was written. So yes, you're correct.
If racism is being taught in schools, even if it is unofficially taught, what is wrong with saying, okay, you know what? This type of teaching it's not going to be taught at all.
I would say this here. I would say it would be nonsensical. I would say if there was one teacher who was at a school district who was teaching something that was racist, I would say deal with that teacher and not say, oh, we're going to say all teachers across the state. Here's the bottom, Keisha. You don't have the data. You can't even give a number, and you can't. And what I'm saying is it's nonsensical for conservatives in these states passing statewide bans on something that's not even being taught, and you don't even know how significant it is. So, and here's the whole piece. Critical race theory is not a part of the curriculum. It doesn't exist in Florida schools or Texas or Oklahoma or Arkansas. And for the people who say it is, you simply can't provide the data. So, I appreciate it. You give your final comment. Go ahead.
That said that, that racism, was not really a problem, and they didn't think that slavery should have been abolished either. So I'm guessing that's what it.
That's just totally nonsensical. It makes no sense at all. And the bottom line is this here: you can't even provide an actual number. You use words like many and a lot. Those are the words that people use when they don't have the numbers to back them up. So that's why I'm simply saying you might want to be specific. You might want to have folks bring it in, but you don't have it. You don't. And so what you chose to do is to say, oh, I want to kill a fly, I'm going to fire a bazooka. And again, your own example at Douglas contradicts what you did before the State Board of Education. And so good luck for Moms for Liberty. I hope to spend some time in Florida. And yeah, I'll certainly be talking about the issue, how race does impact us in our society. And we're going to call out on every level. And we're also going to call out those politicians who support these racist voter suppression policies that we see existing, especially there in Florida as well. So we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. What on?
Everything and nothing at the same time.
You're looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these black folks in Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the black folks, the black love here at Essence?
That is fun. That is fun. That is all black love. That's what's significant and different about it. It's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
Sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Exactly. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well for me. God's been real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I got to do.
It's always good seeing you.
Well, thank you so much. I love this.
We got to mix it up a little bit.
I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't get regular pockets. All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments. That, of course, was Shaka Khan from the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to also, we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that. Now, you can always count on white nationalist Tucker Carlson to weigh in on this, speaking for the white nationalists in America. And this was the foolishness, I'm going to play in a second, that was stated last night on his show. But y'all need to understand, again, who he's speaking to. Listen to this.
Thinks about is radical social change. And this week, she got an assist from the United States Congress. Starting this Saturday, our country is getting a new Independence Day to supplant the old one, which people like Lori Lightfoot complained was racist. Not a single member of either party in the Senate opposed it. Republicans, in fact, co-sponsored the resolution. Happy that my bill to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday just passed the Senate, wrote John Cornyn, a supposedly conservative senator from Texas. Lori Lightfoot is thrilled by this. Unlike John Cornyn, Lori Lightfoot understands the power of symbols. They're immensely important. That's why we have them. For Flag Day on Monday, a holiday designed to honor the American flag, speaking of symbols, Lori Lightfoot is flying something instead called the Pan-African flag. You're seeing a shot of it on your screen right now. It's now up in City Hall in Chicago. That and the Juneteenth flag. Watch. What she thinks about is radical social change. And this week, she got an assist from the United States Congress.
Oh, poor Tucker. Really? Are your feelings hurt? Are you a little upset that the truth is now being told? See, when you hear the white nationalists proclaim that on this day, this was to declare, is to replace. No, it wasn't to replace. What it was, Tucker, was to actually speak truth. I know it's a little hard for you to understand. But what you have to understand is that what we're dealing with is people of African descent did not celebrate Independence Day on July 4th, 1776, because we were not free. We were not free from Great Britain. In fact, little Tucker, people of African descent who were enslaved fought with the British because they were promised their freedom by doing so. See, this is why the white nationalists hate the 1619 Project. This is why white nationalist TV Fox News employs a Tucker Carlson. This is why they hate what happened today. Because see, now all of their efforts and all of their fighting to keep their white children from being taught actual American history, it's going to be a little hard now to do that, with Juneteenth now being a national holiday. I know there are a lot of people out there who have been, we didn't want this, we want, but let me be real clear. I want the George Floyd Justice Act. I want to end voter suppression. I want all of those things, but I wanted this too. Because see, now there's no escaping Juneteenth in the reality Now, you heard Vice President Kamala Harris there speak. I wish her staff had actually listened to Karl Mack when he talked about the history as well, because the slaves actually were not necessarily freed in the Confederacy with Emancipation Proclamation. So we quibble over some of those details. But really what they are struggling with now, they're struggling with the fact that they now have to confront what really happened. They have to confront all of the specific things that took place, the heinous nature of slavery. They have to confront that it actually happened here in the United States. See, I find it very interesting that you have these folks who are passing these bills. We don't want critical race theory being taught, when first of all, it's not even being taught in your schools. But then you have states that are actually passing that it must be mandated to teach the Holocaust in schools. I have no problem with the teaching of the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust, in schools. Some of you may say, well, Roland, why didn't you just switch from the Holocaust to the Jewish Holocaust? Because the Jewish Holocaust took place in Germany. That was the Jewish Holocaust. There was a Holocaust that took place in the Congo by King Leopold of Belgium. Was estimated that 10 to 20 million black Congolese were killed. Yeah, read the book King Leopold's Ghost. I call it the Jewish Holocaust because of the number of people of African descent who died crossing that Atlantic, who died at the hands of the Portuguese, at the hands of the British, at the hands of Americans. See, y'all, that's really why the white nationalists are now upset. They are upset. See, if I'm about to preach this thing, they are upset, which is what the basis of my book, White Fear. They are upset because we now are exercising our power. You see, the white nationalists who were behind slavery for 243 years, it was never their design for a Roland Martin to be able to speak freely on a platform that I own. That's why it was made illegal for us to be able to even read. What the people of African descent who were enslaved understood was that there must be something powerful about the concept of reading if the sentence, if you were caught, was death. And so what the white nationalists today can't handle is they can't handle Becky and Margaret and Chip and Tucker and Sean and Laura, and Mark. They can't handle Dan. They can't handle any of them now having to be exposed to the truth about our history. Folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Everything and nothing at the same time.
You looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these black folks in Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the black folks, the black love here at Essence?
That is what? That is what? That is all black love. That's what's significant and different about it. You know, it's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
Sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Big that. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well for me. God's been real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I gotta do.
Oh, it's always good seeing you.
Well, thank you so much. I love this.
We gotta mix it up a little bit.
I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't have regular pockets. Right? All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments that, of course, was Shaka Khan for the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to also, we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Y'all know what time it is.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, bro.
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, if y'all don't know that Bill Duke line, just go on to YouTube and type it in. All right, y'all. Lord have mercy. So y'all know how these black delivery drivers have been being accosted by these crazy white people around the country. Well, let's just say when this white guy in San Francisco rolled up on this brother, he learned real quickly he done rolled up on the wrong bruh.
Please get out of my face. Put your mask on. There you go.
I'm outside. I don't need a mask.
What the fuck do you want?
I want identification. Who are you?
Who the fuck are you? Why do you think that I have to answer your fucking questions? Why do you think that I have to answer your questions, dude?
So who are you with?
It's none of your business. It's none of your business. Get out of my way.
Who are those addressed?
Don't worry about what the fuck I'm doing. Get out of my face. Every time I come around here, motherfuckers like you make my job harder. Please get out of my face, dude.
But you haven't identified yourself.
That's none of your business. Why do you think that I have to identify myself? You ain't seeing nothing. You ain't seeing nothing. Don't worry about who I'm with. It's none of your business.
Who are the boxes addressed to?
You really gonna do this? What's your name? Let's see some identification. What's your name? What's your address? Pull it out. Come on. You live right there, right? Let's go over there and see what your address is. Since you got something to say about it. Right? That's what you want to do? You want to ask for identification?
You're the one in the neighborhood here.
Yeah, that's right. So what? It's a free fucking country, ain't it? You did this. Don't start shaking and crying. What's your name? What's your name, buddy?
John.
John what?
That's all you get.
John what? John what? You come over here asking for identification? John what? I don't give a fuck. Fuck you and your missing packages. You think I'm crying over that shit? John what? You want to ask for identification? Where's your fucking identification? Nah, it's good. I'll one-up that. Good. Go fucking look for a police officer, you pile of shit. Don't think I don't know why you came over here and stopped me. Because you think I belong in another neighborhood, right? Fuck yourself. You are why people get killed and end up on the fucking news, you pile of shit. You're the fucking reason why. Fuck you. Oh yeah, me? This is where this asshole lives. When I first came on this street, he hollered at me from that window right there. He asked me what I'm doing. I told him none of his business, and he came down here and wanted to talk to me. So now we're gonna talk. $22.55 Clay Street. Bit off more than you could chew, didn't you?
I called the police.
Good for you. You heard about the Karen Act, right? So good luck with that. Who's really breaking the law? Okay. Good thing you did this, huh? Good thing this is how you woke up in the morning and decided what to do. This is what you decided to do with your day. What's your last name, John? Hey, John, what's your last name? What's your last name, John?
I called the police.
Call them now. You should call them. For what? Tell me what you're calling them for.
Because you're harassing me.
Oh, now it's harassment. Before, it was because I was walking down the street. Now I'm harassing you? Didn't you call for me from that fucking window right there? Didn't you call for me? I was across the street. You called out to me. I didn't come over here looking for you.
Don't harass me, okay?
Hey, nah. Call the cops. Call the cops, please. Please, call the cops. You fucked up. No, because you're an asshole, and this is why people fucking die. Motherfuckers that look like me die because of motherfuckers that look like you. Have you not opened up a fucking newspaper? Can you not look around and see what the fuck is going on because of this bullshit right here? Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit, man. And now, motherfuckers like me, got little fucking handhold recording devices in our pockets. So bullshit assholes like you can't get away with the bullshit you be pulling anymore. So go ahead, call the fucking cops. Call the fucking cops, man. You already said you're gonna call them, right? I'm not evading. I'm not leaving the scene of a crime. That's what you said you're gonna do, right? So call the cops. It's none of your business. You shouldn't have fucking stepped on my toes in the first place. And a younger me would have beat your fucking ass, but I'm not gonna do that. Call the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops, man. That's what you said. Did you call the cops? That's what you said, right? You're threatening the police on me.
No, I'm telling you that if you don't stop threatening me, I'm going to call the police.
Threatening you with what? With words of truth? Does the truth get on your fucking nerves? Look at my face. Look at my face. Yep, that's me. We already got your fucking face on camera. You scared you're gonna lose your job now or your fucking $1 billion funding? Don't nobody feel bad for you. Don't nobody feel bad for you. Fuck out of here, man. You're living up in your fucking mansion bothering me. I'm a hardworking man. What the fuck do you do for a living? You sit on your ass and type behind... You sit on your ass and type behind a computer, huh? So then why is it your business?
Because I ordered something.
Oh, now it's because you ordered something. A second ago it was because I might be a pork pirate. But now it's because you fucking ordered something. You came out of your fucking living room across the street to where the fuck I was at. Fuck that. You called the cops, right?
Please, just leave.
Did you call the cops? Did you call the cops?
I haven't yet, no.
Are you gonna call them?
No.
Fuck out of my face, man. You mean... You fucking clown. Dear Pack Heights. Hey, everybody. I'm not here to steal shit. You fucking happy now? I'm not here to steal shit, you fucking rich assholes. You ain't got nothing fucking better to do? Why don't you go for a fucking hike? Go do something good with your money. Huh? How about that? Go do something good with your fucking money, man. Go do something positive instead of sitting in your castle, recording me, making an ass out of yourself. We didn't have to do none of this. We didn't have to do none of this at all. I've been here all my fucking life. 30 years I've been in this fucking city right here. And every time I come around here, a motherfucker that looks like you got a problem with a motherfucker that looks like me. You think that's coincidence? You ain't got nothing to say now, do you? Do you? You gotta bother me while I'm doing my fucking job. A hard, honest work living like you assholes always say, hey, get a job. I got a job, right? You motherfuckers still fucking with me. So what now?
Now, I know a lot of y'all, look, a lot of cursing going on that video there, but Michael, bottom line is this here. This is how you turn that thing. Oh, now all of a sudden you want to come at me. Now all of a sudden you want to check my packages. And so that brother there went at that bigot. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to challenge that brother while you in the neighborhood. And then let me look at the packages. Say what?
Look, he went all in. Good for him for doing so. And one question I have, Roland, relative to usually on your videos, the white person who's acting like a clown gets fired or loses his job. Do we know if that happened to him?
Don't know. We're still waiting here to find out what happens here. But Julian, my boy put his address out there, showed the building. Yep. He let everybody know. But then I love how John wanted his information, but then didn't want to give up his own information.
Oh, 2150 Clay Street, y'all. One of the most affluent neighborhoods in San Francisco. Flood his mailbox. Send him letters saying, fool, what wrong with you? Brother, I was just cracking up. Brother man was time enough for it. You talk about time enough. He was time enough for him. He was not backing down. He was not taking anything. And that's how it's supposed to be. All too often, what we do as Afro-descendant people is that we fade. We don't necessarily give it back like we got it for obvious historical reasons. But this brother was he was Roland Martin unfiltered. That's
he was unfiltered. On Congo, he said, a younger me would have beat your ass, but I ain't going to do that because I'm older.
But he also got that Bill Duke line as well at one point. And so this goes back to what we were talking about with the police in the first segments. Folks are tired, and they're going to start turning on these folks and giving it right back as good as they're getting. And these guys need to be exposed, and they need to all be put on blast to let them know that we are not having it. You can only deal with so much of this, Roland. And he spoke for so many of us in what he did in that video. Period. Bottom line.
Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Well, how trash ass is Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin when Texas Democrats come to the U.S. Capitol today to actually implore Senate Democrats to pass House Bill 1, to pass John Lewis Act. They have a luncheon on Capitol Hill. All Democrat senators show up, except Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. I'm just trying to understand how arrogant they are. And check this out. Then a couple of other state officials from Texas meet with Senator Joe Manchin. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't meet with him. they meet with his staff. He wouldn't even meet with them. Do y'all see how shameful and despicable this is? Let's go to my panel. Ben Dixon, host, Benjamin Dixon Show podcast, Teresa Lundy, principal founder, TML Communications, Mustafa Santiago Ali, PhD, former senior advisor for environmental justice, EPA. And so we're also efforting to get one of those state officials on the show to talk about their meetings on Capitol Hill today. But Ben, how trash, how pathetic and shameful is Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin when these Texas Democrats come to Capitol Hill to talk about how they thwarted the passage of a Republican-led voter suppression bill, and these two don't even show up for the luncheon. All 48 other Democratic senators show up, but these two don't.
When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, they have shown us repeatedly exactly who they are. They might have the Democrat D by their name, but they're certainly there on behalf of the Republican Party. When they reach across the aisle, they're not reaching across the aisle to get Republicans to turn in our favor. They're continuously reaching towards us to pull us closer to the Republican Party. And the fact that they would not show up to these meetings this morning means that there's a certain level of condescension, casual dismissal of not only elected officials, but if they did this to elected officials, imagine what they do to the people. And so they feel like they have no responsibility whatsoever to answer on behalf or answer to the people because they don't feel like they have to answer to the other elected officials. I mean,
it's unbelievable, Teresa, when you see just how shameful these two are. So you are too good to attend the luncheon, to listen to these Texas Democrats describe in detail the voter suppression bills. That's just unbelievable. And again, this is I'm going to pull this up. This is the tweet from Ari Berman, who is a voting rights journalist. Manchin and Sinema didn't attend Senate Dem lunch where Texas Democrats spoke about need to pass For the People Act to stop GOP voter suppression.
Yeah, I totally agree with my colleague. If they do show you who you are, it doesn't matter, if you're in an elected position or if you're just a regular citizen, these individuals just showed that they just didn't care. And it's just interesting to see because we are such in a critical space right now where, even if we don't take the listening component about the bill, I think we're, even missing the mark when we start looking at some of these elected officials and what we are asking them to do. We already know half of them, read legislation and when they co-sponsor it. So to not even take a lunch, just a slap in the face to everybody who voted for them.
This is one of the folks out there who responded, Mustafa. Manchin didn't bother to meet with Texas Democrats regarding the damage that new Texas voting laws would do to Texans if the For the People Act doesn't pass. What is wrong with that man?
Well, it's extremely disrespectful. Senator Manchin has shared with the country that he still had folks he wanted to talk to. He wanted to garner more information so that he could make an informed decision. And he wants to go through this process. But yet folks who are in the thick of it in Texas spent their time, spent their resources to actually come to Washington, D.C. and have substantive conversations about what's going on in their respective state. And he's shown you exactly how he feels about these individuals and many others who have been advocating for him to actually begin to move forward in a way that is actually more protective of the country. So this is nothing new. He will continue to share with folks, that he's still trying to, get everybody's perspective. So I guess what he's really saying is that these folks' perspective is not that important to his overall analysis.
This here was a tweet that Ari Berman put out. 68% of Americans support For the People Act, including a majority of Republicans. It has bipartisan support among the public. Reporters should point that out when GOP senators lie that it isn't popular. Ben, it's amazing what happens when you got facts.
Right. But I mean, it shows the extent to which they're willing to ignore the facts. They're willing to distort the truth. They're willing to use half truths, not only the Republican Party, but Sinema and Manchin. Because if you think about it, there's always about this 30% of Americans voting electorate that aligns with the bigotry, the absurdity. They align with Trumpism. They align in opposition to H.R. 1. So who is Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin? Who are you really serving? Because you're not even serving a majority of Republicans. You're serving that faction, that far right-wing faction that does not want black people to vote in this country. So how do they expect us to see them as allies when they're aligning with our enemies?
Especially when you won't even meet with the state legislators who can give you an understanding of what's happening. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Everything and nothing at the same time.
You looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these black folks at Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the black folks, the black love here at Essence?
That is what? That is what? That is all black love. That's what's significant and different about it. You know, it's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
I'm sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Exactly. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well for me. God's been real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I gotta do.
Oh, it's always good seeing you.
Thank you so much. I love this.
We gotta mix it up a little bit.
I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't have regular pockets. All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments. That, of course, was Shaka Khan from the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. There are two black Republicans in the House of Representatives, one in the United States Senate. And one of them out of Florida says that the Congressional Black Caucus is keeping him from joining. Joining us right now is Congressman, first of all, Byron Donalds. Congressman, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Of course, anytime. Thanks for having me.
First and foremost, and so you said you wanted to join. When did you last communicate with the Congressional Black Caucus? What was the process and what was said to you? And who did you talk to?
Well, actually, it was really the first week I was up here on Capitol Hill after swearing in. I talked with a couple of members. I know Joyce Beatty and I, we had a brief conversation on the floor. The question was asked, would I be interested in joining? I said I would be interested in joining. When I was in the Florida legislature, I had joined. I was a part of the Legislative Black Caucus for 4 years. And so at that point, it was just, she was like, okay, well, we'll be in touch. I said, okay. And we didn't hear anything. So I had my staff reach out, a couple times over the last few months. We never heard anything. And then last week, the story drops on BuzzFeed, which, shocked me, shocked us here, in my office. And then, here we are.
So when you say it shocked you, and so they, of course, BuzzFeed did a story saying that you were being blocked from joining the CBC. You reached out. You had not joined them. So that was not a story that your staff put out. So you're not aware where the story came from.
No, we never put anything out. In my office, my staff understood that we weren't going to talk about it. We were going to just, have those conversations quietly. So when you see an article drop, you're kind of like, well, where'd this come from? And I mean, look, let's keep it real. If I was going to drop a story, I wouldn't drop it in BuzzFeed. That doesn't make any sense. I would have dropped it on foxnews.com, but that's not where it dropped. Obviously, they've covered it. CNN has covered it. A lot of people have. But I'm not in the business of dropping leaks to reporters. That's not how I operate. For me, if I feel a certain way, I'll come and meet with you directly and tell you. I'm not going to use media to do it.
Why do you want to join the CBC?
I think actually it's important to have the conversations that affect, obviously, the Black community and the different policies that will. My politics might be different from a lot of the members in the CBC, but that's no different than how it was when I was in the Florida legislature. But I think those conversations from all sides of the political spectrum are very, very important because it can help actually distill a lot of these ideas down into ways that will be most effective, not just for the Black community. Because you got to understand that when you legislate, you can't just write a bill for the Black community. You have to write legislation that impacts the entire country. So obviously you want it to have positive impacts on the Black community, but you also have to understand in the back of your mind, it's going to have impacts for all of the country. You want to make sure that those things operate for everybody so everybody can thrive and succeed. Secondarily, I think it's important that you have these relationships that exist in the legislative process because it changes it from just being Congressman Donald or the new Black Republican to being, well, that's just Byron. And so let me sit down with Byron and figure out where he's coming from. I can share with him where I'm coming from, and maybe we can find a way forward.
When it came to the passage of the House Bill 1 dealing with the issue of voting, how did you vote?
I voted no on that bill, and I'll tell you why. Because, first of all, in Florida, we actually have, in my view, the best election law in the country. We have massive access points to the ballot. You can get your absentee ballot anywhere about 2 to 3 months before Election Day. It's really like 3 months before Election Day. You have really good opportunities to vote through early voting, some of the best in the country. And then, of course, you have Election Day. We do have voter ID laws. We have things like that have been in Florida law for more than 20 years. And so, in my view, representing a district in Florida, why would I support the federal government taking over election law when I know my state and the area I represent already has great election laws where people have the opportunity to go vote and nobody challenges them?
Because the reality is that it's not just a question of what happens in your state, it's what's happening in other states as well. When it came to the certification of electors, how did you vote?
I actually voted not to certify in Pennsylvania and Arizona.
Why?
But the other 48 states were never contested.
Why?
Well, because it's very clear. Hold on, let me get to that. Because it was actually clear, based upon the information I was looking at, that in Arizona and Pennsylvania there were violations of election law. And so you have a situation where, under the Constitution, state legislatures write election law. And I know the argument is, but there was a pandemic, so adjustments had to be made. But let's be very clear. It is not the role of a supervisor of elections or the state elections officer or any judge to change election law.
But I thought Republicans believed in the rule of law and judges ruled. And in fact, I thought Republicans believed in the rule of law and judges ruled. Secondly, you also had more than 60 court cases where it was challenged in the courts. Donald Trump and his team lost all of them.
The point is not whether the court cases were won or lost. The point is that when you're looking at electoral college votes, you have to look at what the law was and what the actual implementation of law was at the time. The judges and the courts, they have their role. They did whatever they felt was necessary, but Congress also has a role as well. Congress does have the responsibility of certifying electoral college votes, and it's important for people to understand that this is not the first time electoral college votes were challenged. They were challenged in 2000. They were challenged in 2004. There was a member of the Democrat conference who challenged in 2016, and that went away. away. So these things have happened in our past in our country. So just saying now with the election of Joe Biden, that because you challenged in 2020, now that creates some dynamic where now you're not, basically you're to be ostracized or punished or whatever.
So I'm curious. So that's very curious because you just said that you did not want federal law change to impact voting there in Florida, but you in Florida are forming an opinion on voting in Arizona and Pennsylvania when the elections in Arizona and Pennsylvania were actually certified by Republican officials and others in those two states. And so how do you know what's better in Arizona and Pennsylvania when you're in Florida?
Because there's a process where Congress certifies and ratifies electoral college votes.
But no, you answer my question. How do you know? No, you answer my question. How do you know what's better? How do you know that there were irregularities when there are officials in Arizona and Pennsylvania who have said there wasn't?
The difference is that H.R. 1 actually goes against most of the way the Constitution is actually written.
No, that's not what I asked. That's not what I asked. Congressman, that's not what I asked.
H.R. 1 and election laws.
No, that's not what I asked. What I asked, it's not what I asked. What I asked is, how do you stated that there were election irregularities, but there were officials in Arizona and Pennsylvania, even of your own party, who said that the elections were fair, the elections that you did not have violations, that you did not have fraud. How are you, a congressman in Florida, to know what actually happened in Arizona and Pennsylvania when the officials there stated what happened in their own state?
But listen, first of all, you're assuming that I can't read as well. Of course I
No, I'm not assuming. I'm not assuming. But if there are people of your own party who have publicly stated, I'm just trying to understand, how do you know what happened there when they say it didn't happen?
Let me answer your question. Let's take the state of Pennsylvania, for example. It is crystal clear, no matter what anybody wants to say, is that the state Supreme Court changed election law unilaterally. Under Pennsylvania's law, you're not allowed to accept ballots after the polls close on election day. The state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania unilaterally changed that to accepting ballots 3 days after election.
Are they the highest court in Pennsylvania?
Can I finish my point? If you change the law at the court level, but knowing that under the Constitution, state legislatures are the ones who write election law, you're changing the rules at the end of the game. That's the reality. That's what happened. And so
is the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court the highest court in the land?
You have a decision to make at the level we have when it comes to certifying electoral college.
Let me ask you this question. Did the United States Supreme Court, I got to ask you a question.
Not to certify, based upon the reasoning that in those two states in particular, laws, the actual implementation, the actual practice of elections were not followed under law that was passed by the state legislature, which is the law of the land under the United States Constitution.
Did Donald Trump and his people sue, and did the Supreme Court reject the argument that you just made?
The Supreme Court chose not to take up the case, but that is
that's a rejection.
They did not take up the case.
That's a rejection.
But the Supreme Court is a separate branch of government.
But wait, hold on. But so is Congress. And so I'm trying to understand. If you're making an argument,
it's a vote in front of us. We have the opportunity to cast that vote as well. Just because a court says something or the Supreme Court says something, when the matter comes before Congress, you still have to cast a vote, yay or nay. They didn't lock the voting machines and said, well, this is all over, and so there's no vote for Congress to take. There is actually a vote. There is a constitutional process that happens.
Got it.
It's a constitutional process that has happened multiple times before. And so to distill this whole entire argument down to certification votes on January 6th, that's really far afield from the full conversation we're even having right now about membership in the Black.
No. I'm asking you, but you talked about.
This is why I'm going to make that point, because if the premise of this conversation we're having right now is that my intellect, my past, my road from the inner city to the halls of Congress, my policy beliefs, if all those things are now irrelevant because my vote on certification.
No, I didn't say that. First of all, who said that? Who said that?
That's the argument that you're presenting.
Actually, you're wrong. No, Congressman, you're wrong. Congressman, you're wrong. I'm asking you a series of questions in terms of how you voted on particular bills that, and for the black community, in terms of where issues are. George Floyd Justice Act, how did you vote?
Wait, say that again. You broke.
George Floyd Justice Act, how did you vote?
Oh, I didn't vote for that bill. I voted against it. And the reason why I voted against that bill is because of qualified immunity. I think the qualified immunity provisions in that bill are actually going to be very harmful to police forces in urban corridors, because the reality of qualified immunity, in my view, and having talked with many officers in law enforcement, is that if you change qualified immunity standards, you're actually going to have less officers on the street. If you have less officers on the street, it's actually going to lead to higher crime rates in our cities. We're already seeing that right now with the elements in different cities where police budgets have been shrank down, or you want to call it defunding police, or whatever you want to call it. The correlation effect is real. If there's less officers on the street, crime rates have gone up.
Well, first of all, there are examples. Congressman, there are examples where police in Chicago and Baltimore chose not to actually do their job because they were angry when one of their own actually were indicted by the DA, and then also crime went up because they chose to slow down. Let me ask you another question. So you saw the John Lewis Act. How did you vote on that?
This is the bill about John Lewis's Act dealing with voting rights, but also bringing back pre-clearance.
Yep.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
I voted no on that bill. I don't believe that we need pre-clearance.
The COVID bill, how did you vote?
Oh, that bill is trash. I voted no on that bill.
On the American Relief, how did you vote on that?
Say that again?
On the American Relief Plan, how did you vote on that?
Wait, what? Say that again.
You had the COVID bill, and so you said that bill was trash. So here's my question. Out of all the bills that have been come through the House, where African Americans have that from an African first of all, the COVID hate crime bill, how'd you vote on that?
The Asian American hate crime.
Actually, not the Asian American. It's actually not the Asian American hate crime bill. It's actually Asian Americans not even in the actual title. But to paraphrase it, it's been called the anti-Asian hate crime bill. How'd you vote on that?
I voted no on that bill because we don't need to have that bill. That bill is not necessary for what's happening right now in the country. Do you have an issue with what's say to be Asian hate? That may be rising, potentially, maybe. But let's also.
It's not potentially, maybe. The facts are there. The data is there. It was even documented under the Trump DOJ.
When you had the shooting that occurred in Atlanta, Georgia, every element of law enforcement came out and said at that point in time, and several weeks after, that it was not a quote unquote hate crime. There were other things that were.
That was one shooting.
To pass that bill, so that's what happened. So I voted no on that bill.
Gotcha. If making Juneteenth becomes a national holiday, comes before the House, how would you vote?
I'm sorry, we were talking over each other.
If it comes before the House to make Juneteenth a national holiday, how would you vote?
Oh, I would vote yes on that. I think Juneteenth should be a national holiday.
So if HR 40 comes to the House floor, how would you vote?
Which one is HR 40?
HR 40 deals with creating to study the impact of slavery. It's called the reparations bill to create a study of it, not actually to grant reparations, but to actually study the very issue. How would you vote?
Actually, I just finished reading that bill. I would vote no on that bill.
Gotcha. So out of all the things I talked about, the only one that you said you would vote for is Juneteenth. And so if you did a poll of the issues that black folks care about, where do you line up in the interest of African Americans?
I think if you're talking about the interests of African Americans lie, the first one is having quality access to education.
Actually, that's not number one.
Actually, can I talk? If you're talking about the issues that actually impact people and families in their community.
No, actually, I'm talking about polling data has been done, and that actually is not number one. The criminal justice reform is number one. So, but go ahead.
Okay. Education, healthcare, a quality economy, and yes, of course, criminal justice policies. If you actually know my history and my record, when I was in Florida's legislature, I worked on criminal justice policies. It's one of the things I worked on, and I support actually having quality reforms to make sure that our criminal justice system actually recognizes and comes into the 21st century while also making sure that we keep communities safe. That's something that I do believe in. I think that's important to do with respect to what Congress has passed up here. But I would also say that you also can't take the baseline of what this Congress has passed or this Congress has put forward and say, well, you didn't vote on these bills, so now this is a window into what your ideas are. Because the truth of the matter is there's been no discussion about the measures that have come before Congress. These are things that have gone directly to the floor from the Democrat Party, from the majority party up here on Capitol Hill. So there's been really no discussion. There's been no ability to make amendments. There's been no ability for debate. And so you're asking me to vote yes or no on policy ideas that I disagree with for portions of those policy ideas. And that's the way I vote.
So, but again, when you're talking about, again, speaking to those particular issues, if you poll African Americans in the George Floyd Justice Act, it will poll very, very high. You voted against that. If you poll African Americans on the issue of COVID relief, the bill that was passed will poll very, very high. You voted against that. And so we can go down the line. And so, again, when you're talking about speaking to the interests of African Americans, the Congressional Black Caucus is called the conscience of Congress. Yet you also supported Donald Trump, someone who viciously attacked many members of the Congressional Black Caucus, especially women, never apologized to any of them, and you would support him again. I take it if he ran 2024 that you would actively campaign for Donald Trump and support him?
Again, I'm gonna say to make the same point I made earlier. My point and my support.
No, I'm just asking. I'm asking if Donald Trump runs in 2024, would you support and actively campaign for him? Yes or no?
I said earlier, which is already now the tone of this entire interview, and I don't want to get on your interview. How you do it is how you do it.
No. I'm just Congressman. Understand? I'm just asking a series of questions. Congressman. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm just asking a series of questions to know where you stand. Go ahead.
And let me make my point.
No, go ahead.
Here we go. So all I'm saying is that if you are going to distill down who I am in my entire journey to get to Congress and the thoughts and the ideas and the principles that I do have, to a vote on a series of bills which are highly partisan bills and my support for President Trump, I don't think that's actually a good thing for our politics.
But Congressman, that's not what I did. Congressman, that's not what I did. That's not what I did. Congressman, my audience, here's the deal. Congressman, my audience doesn't know who you are. They don't know who you are. And no, they don't know who you are. I simply brought up, Congressman, a series of bills that we have talked about on a significant basis on this show, and I wanted my audience to know exactly how you voted if they're not familiar with you. Go ahead.
Well, Roland, every time I start to make an example, you ask another question. You don't even give me an opportunity.
No, I've actually let you finish a number of questions. I just had another question. Go ahead.
Now, to the question about President Trump, if he ran in 24, would I support him? Yeah, because I'm a Republican. I'm going to support the Republican nominee. I'm going to be out in front to make sure that a Republican takes the White House. But the real question is, why would I do that? Because my viewpoint is, go ahead, put the picture up. My viewpoint is...
That's what we do. It's called a television show. We produce it. So, yeah.
I ain't got no problem with that.
Yeah, so I'm saying, okay, that's what we do. Go ahead.
Finish. My point is that I believe that conservative principles, that limited government, that lower spending from the federal level, that a lower base tax policy that leaves more hands in the hands of more people, especially small business owners, actually promotes an economy that can grow and thrive, where even people who grew up poor like me, they can actually earn more money and have more ladders of opportunity in our economy. I believe that parents should have the same purchasing power, poor families, as wealthy families do, and that they shouldn't just be put into an educational system because of where they live. I think they should have access to those educational opportunities wherever they may be. And if government funding follows that child, they should do that. I believe that in healthcare, we should have a robust health insurance economy so people can find a policy that suits their needs. Because what happens right now is that when you factor in deductibles and you factor in premiums, people are spending more money just to have the policy itself and don't have the disposable income to fully access the care under the policy. Those are Republican ideals. That's what I support.
Well, actually, to be honest,
I think it would actually be helpful for the Black community, whether they're poor members of the Black community, middle-income members of the Black community, upper middle-income members of the Black community, or even rich Black people, and that will also be helpful for all of America at the same time.
But the Affordable Care Act actually played a significant role in decreasing the number of African Americans who had no access to health care. Second of all, that was actually a Republican plan because it came from Mitt Romney out of Massachusetts. And thirdly, Donald Trump had 4 years and not one time to even present even remotely a health care plan. And not only that, let's just also be clear. Donald Trump loves to play footsie with white supremacists. So you, after what we experienced for 4 years, you would welcome having that back in the White House? You can be Republican. A lot of Republicans out there who are Republicans, hardcore Republicans, but who did not support that man. But you would willingly stand behind him after what all he did for 4 years, including the newest revelations regarding getting the access to phone records of Democrats, even his own White House lawyer. You would want that back in the White House?
First of all, let me say, whatever Mitt Romney passed in Massachusetts is not conservative policy. Just because Mitt did it doesn't mean that I would.
But Mitt's a Republican.
I'm a conservative, Roland. Just because Mitt Romney did it doesn't mean that I would support it, because it was bad policy in Massachusetts and it's bad policy for the country.
But you just said that you would support Donald Trump because he's a Republican. He would be the Republican nominee, but Mitt's a Republican. So you support some Republicans, not all.
I let you speak. Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I support conservative ideals. Just because a Republican puts something up, if it's not conservative, I'm not going to support it, because it has to matter. It has to align itself with the principles that I just outlined about 30 seconds to a minute ago. The second thing I will tell you is this. What I fully support is an economy that grows and thrives, where income levels for all socioeconomic groups can actually rise, for all ethnicity groups can actually rise. What I do support is not having an economy that should be basically racing out of the gates, but is actually being stalled out because of massive overspending, talking about the COVID relief bill, that was not needed, that is actually holding our small businesses back. And our small business owners are white, black, and Hispanic. They're across the spectrum in our United States. So I support an economy and policies that come from elected officials that are going to allow for all of us to thrive and not get caught up in these ideological arguments of, well, we believe higher taxes and more regulation work, when we already know you take more business out of you take more money out of small business. Who does that really hurt? It's not going to hurt rich people. It's going to hurt middle-income people and poor people who work for said small businesses. It does it every single time.
Well, I'll tell you what's actually hurting small businesses and poor folks. When you have the rich in this country not paying their fair share, the ProPublica stories breaks that down. So I would love to see Republicans actually. Hold on one second. I'm gonna finish and let you finish. I would love to see Republicans fully fund the IRS, so they're not auditing folks who are in the middle class, but they're actually auditing the super rich in this country. Even they admit they don't have the funds because they've been cut by Republicans. But Republicans have cut their funds and not allowed them to do their job. Be nice if that happens.
Let me ask you this question.
Would you support that?
Hold on. Do you know when the most tax revenue was ever raised in the history of the United States, adjusted for inflation?
Tell us when.
It happened in 2018 and 2019. I sit on the budget committee, so I know the facts. The facts are the most tax revenue ever in the history of our country, both in dollar amount and as a percentage of the economy, happened in 2018 and 2019.
Did the deficit, you sit on the budget committee? No. Since you sit on the budget committee, did the deficit under Trump increase in those same years?
I said 2018 and 2019. I didn't even raise the name of whose president was.
No, I'm asking. Did the federal deficit increase in 2018 and 2019?
They did, but I'm talking about tax policy. That's your question. You're talking about tax policy, right?
But the tax policy, that tax cut actually contributed to the deficit increasing. And I thought Republicans are fiscal conservatives.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true, and you know that because. And here's the deal.
Are you serious?
Hold on. Oh, I'm very serious because.
Hold on. I just want to be clear. You're saying that the tax cut, the $1 trillion tax cut, did not increase the federal deficit. You said that that's not true.
I'm gonna make my point to you.
Go ahead.
Point I'm gonna make. If you look at what the estimates for what tax revenue were from the Congressional Budget Office under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act versus what tax revenue actually was from under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the federal government raised more money in revenue than CBO projected. So if you're going to project that tax revenue is going to be $2 billion, for argument's sake, and tax revenue is actually $2.5 billion, how is that a cut? Can you explain that to me? How does that add to the deficit when you bring more money in than you expect it to?
This is a piece right here, a couple of things I want to show you that I think is critically important, where the folks at Forbes, not the most liberal publication, talked about the federal deficit and how the Trump's tax cuts did lead to an increase in the federal deficit. But also, when you mention the issue about conservative and Affordable Care Act, This is what Forbes also said on more than one occasion. President Obama has said the core idea behind Obamacare came from the Heritage Foundation, and PolitiFact rates the claim as mostly true. Heritage Foundation ain't the most moderate group. That's a very conservative foundation. And so looks like Democrats also took a Republican idea and made the Affordable Care Act. So it's kind of conservative.
Like I told you before, just because somebody puts their name on it from my side of the aisle doesn't mean I'm going to support it.
No, Con. What you said is, just because a Republican put their name on it, I'm not going to support it. You said, but I am a conservative. The Heritage Foundation is also a very right conservative foundation, right?
I don't agree with the policy because I've actually worked in insurance for my career is 17 years, finance, banking, and financial services and insurance. And if you run an insurance market that way, what you're going to have is what we do have. You're going to have policies and premiums that are too high for a lot of people to afford.
So where's the Republican health plan? Where is it?
Let me just finish it.
No, I'm just asking, where is it? I've been looking for it.
And then what you have is you have people who are trying to get the same insurance. They don't have the ability to afford it, so government has to come in with subsidies. When government comes in with subsidies, those are the things that actually add to the deficits that you were so concerned about from under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act.
Also, this is again from the folks at Bloomberg who laid this out, that the Trump tax cuts did take a bite out of revenue in this country, and that it said in the 2 years since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 took effect on January 1st, 2018, the annual U.S. federal deficit has grown from $681 billion to a bit over $1 trillion, according to the Treasury Department. But those are the numbers there. Here's the deal here. I still would like to know, again, when you talk about being a part of the CBC, we'll see what they say. But what my audience is also asking here is they want to know specifically, not broad education, this, they would know. They would know specifically what things that you will support that specifically has a direct impact on the Black community. That's one of the things that they also want to know.
If you're talking about police reform, criminal justice reform, healthcare, education policy, all those things have impacts on the Black community. And the policies I support are reforms that actually unleash education, unleash healthcare to be more vibrant, to have far more options, far more choices, and actually help Black families, or frankly any family for that matter, with respect to education specifically, have the purchasing power to go and find the environment that best suits their kids. If that doesn't help improve the lives of Black families, it most certainly does, because when you give a family a choice, or let alone a Black family a choice, where they can actually find the environment that best suits the needs of their children, that's going to help their children thrive and succeed. And I know you and I both want that.
Well, first of all, I'm somebody who co-founded School Choice is the Black Choice. That's not an issue for me. But what I also understand is that one of the fundamental problems that I do have with Republicans when it comes to education is what I'm seeing when it comes to textbooks, when it comes to this ridiculous thing they're doing, the attack on critical race theory. That's not even being taught in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. It makes no sense. Even the bill that was passed in your state made no sense whatsoever, because critical race theory is not taught in Florida schools. But again, we know critical race theory has become the boogeyman for all issues dealing with race in education. And so, yeah, I got a whole bunch of issues when it comes to the Republican Party on education. And let's be real clear, I've also been very critical of Democrats when it comes to the issue of charter schools, magnet schools, school choice as well. And so, frankly, I think in a lot of ways, both parties are full of shit when it comes to education, and they really don't care about the people, their agendas. You have the right who wants to take down teachers' unions, and then of course you have the left who wants to support them. But it all comes down to what's right for the child, and I'm not sure that people are real about that. Well, Congressman Donalds, glad to have you on the show. Certainly welcome you back again. Unfortunately, a lot of your white colleagues are too scared to come talk to Black-owned media. I've offered a platform for more than a decade. Very, very few have actually accepted the opportunity. And so we'll see if they want to actually communicate with Black folks and listen to them, they might want to come talk to Black-owned media.
Listen, it was my pleasure to be here with you. Been watching you for a while, so I know you've been following a little bit of your career. It's my pleasure to be on. I know I'll be back on in the future.
All right, thanks a bunch. We appreciate it.
All right, you take it easy.
Folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
I want to bring up my next guest. He is out of Washington State. He is, of course, former head of the Seattle King County NAACP. Carl Mack is an historian. Carl, your issues with Juneteenth. Your thoughts about this action today. What are the issues?
I think they're historically absolutely incorrect, and I think they're insulting to us as a people. And so
who's incorrect?
Those who, the Congress, that bill passing was absolutely incorrect.
So what should it have been?
Okay, so the bill says, and what is being taught, and I'll just give you specifically in the state of Washington. And first of all, Roland, let me be clear. I have absolutely no problem with Juneteenth. My problem is the historical efforts that are being made and what's being surrounded. I call it the misrepresentation of Juneteenth. And so what happened in the state of Washington is they passed similar legislation, and this legislation has been passed a lot throughout this country. And in the state of Washington, similar to what they just did in Congress, they said that the legislature intends to designate Juneteenth as a statewide holiday celebrating the end of chattel slavery. So what people have been taught about Juneteenth is that those of our ancestors who was enslaved in Galveston, Texas, number one, they were the last Blacks to be enslaved in this country. Number two, that they got the word a year and a half late after President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Both of those things historically are just incorrect. There is no other way to put it. Now, all one has to do is to understand this. Slavery ended in this country on December 6th, 1865, 6 months after Juneteenth. Now, going back to the Emancipation Proclamation, which everybody seems to get so twisted, keep in mind what Lincoln said. Lincoln said, for those states in rebellion against the Union, and there were 11 of them, but in the Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln only mentioned 10 of them. And the only reason he only mentioned 10 is because the 11th state that he didn't mention was Tennessee. He didn't mention them because the Union already had control of Tennessee. So he said, for those states in rebellion against the Union, slavery is now free, over. Now, keep in mind, there were 4 border states in which slavery was still practiced. Those border states were Maryland, Missouri, Kentucky, Kentucky, and Delaware. So when Lincoln said that to him, I want you to imagine this, and you don't have to imagine, this is just a fact. When those 11 states left the Union, they didn't act as 11 individual states. They formed a confederacy. And when they formed a confederacy, in effect, they formed their own nation, which means they elected a president, Jefferson Davis. They elected a vice president, Alexander Stephens of Georgia. They wrote a Confederate Constitution. They were their own nation, Brother Roland. So when Lincoln issued, quote unquote, an executive order trying to tell them what to do, that's like the Prime Minister of Canada trying to tell the United States citizens what to do. He didn't have any authorization. That's why it took a war. So that's why I'm saying to you that when the news is that they got the word a year and a half late, it didn't matter. The Confederacy were their own nation. They didn't give a damn what the United States said, what Lincoln said. That's why it took the war. Now, as far as them being the last Blacks enslaved, I just heard your last guest. I've heard all of you say how important it is to get it right. Today, there's a movement that has swept this country that we should all be proud of, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Do we think that Black lives just started mattering? Because let's go back to what happened with the Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln said that in those states not in rebellion against the Union, slavery is still legal. Keep that going. 2 of those states were Delaware and Kentucky. 2 of them was Maryland and Missouri. And keep in mind, West Virginia wasn't a state when the Civil War started. It became a state after Virginia seceded. And those 48 counties didn't want to secede, so they became a state after the Civil War. So now let's look at those 5 border states. Maryland, on November 1st, 1864, before the Civil War ended, Maryland abolished slavery. Missouri, on January 11th, 1865, before the Civil War ended, they abolished slavery. West Virginia, the newly entered slave state, on February 3rd, 1865, ended slavery. The Civil War ends on April 9th, 1865. 2 months later, Granger rides into Galveston, Texas, and issues General Order Number 3, which we now call June 19th. I ask you to remember what was going on in Kentucky and Delaware after the Civil War. What was going on in Kentucky and Delaware after Juneteenth? I'll tell you, Roland, there were 225,000 of our ancestors still enslaved, and they did not taste freedom until December 6th, 1865, when Georgia became the 27th state to ratify the 13th Amendment. That is my problem with what is going on in states all across this country, and that is my problem about what just happened in the United States Congress. If you want to designate a date in which all Black folks can celebrate freedom, that date, as far as I'm concerned, as far as history appears to be concerned, is December 6th, because that is the day in which Georgia ratified the 13th Amendment. Now, as it applies to Delaware and Kentucky, keep this in mind, Roland. Delaware didn't ratify the 13th Amendment until 1901. Kentucky ratified the 13th Amendment in 1976. And the state that I'm from, Mississippi didn't ratify the 13th Amendment until February 7, 2013. So, do I have a problem with Juneteenth? Absolutely not. Do I have a problem with the historical inaccuracy of it? Every part of that I got a problem with.
And I think that has been, first of all, like for years, Lincoln freed the slaves. Well, again, and there were people who took exception to Lerone Bennett and others who corrected that. Frankly, what we have folks in this country with a bumper sticker version of history. The reason I think you see the focus on Juneteenth is I think it goes back to this here, because Texas became the first state to actually make it a state holiday. And so what then happened was there were other people who wanted to recognize that fact, and so all of a sudden Juneteenth events then went out. For everybody to understand, Juneteenth was a Texas holiday. To your point, what you just laid out, that was specific to Texas. When General Granger arrived on the shores of Galveston, of the beach in Galveston, and delivered that particular announcement. I think what happened was other people gravitated to that, and then it then became this sort of all-encompassing moment to say, okay, here's something that actually recognizes slavery or the ending of slavery in this country. But you're absolutely right. And I think I believe the opportunity is to, in the words of Paul Harvey, now tell the rest of the story.
Absolutely. So listen. So Roland, the thing that the congressman, I think it's Johnson, I'm not sure your last guess was.
Former Senator Doug Jones.
Okay, Doug Jones. What you and Doug Jones agreed on a lot was it's important to get it right. Today, we as Black folks want to say Black Lives Matter. Then what about the 225,000? Now, I will give you just a little pushback on why Juneteenth took off. I think part of what you said is right, but the rest of the story is this. We all know that our history has not been taught.
Right.
So to what Doug Jones said, there's a lot of Black folks that don't know the scholarship of our experience in this country.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, no doubt.
And so once we didn't know it, and somebody comes in and tells the myth that these were the last Blacks enslaved, they got the news a year and a half later. Well, we just took off and ran with it. And then now, Roland, on May 25th of 2020, well, that gave another steroid injection to the myth behind Juneteenth. And that day was the day that Rodney King, George Floyd was murdered. Now you got white guilt everywhere, and white folks want to do something. Damn it, let's just make Juneteenth a holiday. That's fine. But it didn't start with that. I would tell you this. Go back and look at the 105th Congress of the United States. There was a senator from the state of Mississippi named Trent Lott who introduced legislation similar to what was just passed, and it clearly said June 19th, the day that slavery officially came to an end. Then over in the House, in that same year, I believe it was 97, in that same year, now you had J.C. Watts in the House introduced a joint resolution that said the exact same thing, that Juneteenth is the date on which slavery finally came to an end. So I'm not trying to play the technicalities here. But what I am saying is in the spirit of Harriet Tubman.
Right.
They asked that sister, baby, why would you keep going back, you free? And she said, how could I be free when my people ain't free? Well, how in the hell can we celebrate Juneteenth as the day on which slavery ended when there were over 225,000 of our folks still enslaved in the state of Delaware and Kentucky?
Well, I dare say
that is my problem.
I dare say the same as how we celebrate July 4th as Independence Day. And as Frederick Douglass said, what does this mean to the slave on July 4th? And so, but here's the last point I'll make, and this is very simple. What you laid out is why you got to have black-owned media. Is why because here's the piece. The bottom line is, and you already see it. I know ABC is having a big Juneteenth primetime show. All of a sudden, trust me, you're about to see businesses all across America. And here's the deal. I'm just laying in the cut because I'm telling you, every company that wants to try to profit off of Juneteenth, I'm gonna hit all of them saying, where's your black spin? Where's your black-owned spin? See, that's the other deal. It's just like if a business out there all of a sudden dropping Kwanzaa commercials, you got to be asking how much money you spending with black-owned companies. Not giving away. So this is why we also have to have our own media where we can actually have this conversation, because this ain't gonna happen on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS.
Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it, Roland. And to your point, let me say this. I know that you know the Bennett family who owns the Seattle Medium and KRSZ out of Seattle. Okay, so I wrote an op-ed piece about what I just explained to you all. Not one white newspaper would pick it up, but that got picked up by the Seattle Medium, the black-owned press. And I've always been a huge supporter. In the same way, I listened to the pride that you all had about the legislation being passed. But now we as brothers and sisters right now on your program are going through a learning moment where we're going, damn, maybe I didn't know what Brother Mac was saying, but we're respecting that. And look, I don't expect you to trust what I'm saying. Just go back and verify.
No. But I'm saying, but here's the moment. To me, this is the moment. And I'm gonna bring my panel in after this. The moment for us is this here. This is now, just like that white retired lieutenant colonel when he gave the speech on Memorial Day, and when he told the history of Memorial Day and they cut his microphone because he talked about it was freed, it was actually slaves who actually started Memorial Day, and then they cut his mic. This is where we now use the bully pulpit. And so when folks say, hey, any slavery, actually that's not the truth. So here's my whole deal. This is where we can use the day to say, first of all, there should be a day that speaks to slavery in America, but we gonna also correct the story because even when we use the word we were freed, we actually weren't. That's why I say all the time that we were for the first time, black people were technically fully free Americans in 1970. It took going through Jim Crow, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, took all of those different things. That's why I say technically fully free, and that leads to a whole other conversation about freedom.
But I'll say this, Roland. I'll give you just a little pushback. There is no debate over what chattel slavery was.
Oh yes, I got it.
And as such,
that's why I said freedom. That's why I said freedom.
Right, but there is no debate what chattel slavery was, and all I'm saying is on December 6, 1865, that is the day that chattel slavery in this country ended for our ancestors.
Got it. And what I'm saying is we should use the day to tell the whole story and not keep allowing his story to be told. Carl Mack, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
No problem, my brother. Thanks.
Go to my folks. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
What's going on? Everything and nothing at the same time.
You're looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these black folks in Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the black folks, the black love here at Essence?
That is black. That is black. That is all black love. That's what's significant and different about it. You know, it's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
I'm sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Think that. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well for me. God's been real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I got to do.
Oh, it's always good seeing you.
Well, thank you so much. I love this.
We got to mix it up a little bit.
I love that. I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't get regular pockets. All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, their Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments that, of course, was Shaka Khan from the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Don Winslow dropped this video here specifically targeting Joe Manchin when it comes to voting rights. Watch this.
1965, Selma, Alabama, Edmund Pettus Bridge. Freedom marchers on one side, racist state troopers who had been ordered by Governor George Wallace to stop them on the other.
I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
Bloody Sunday. June 2021. The state troopers are gone, replaced by this man, Senator Joe Manchin. This man is single-handedly blocking the most important voting legislation in the history of this country.
Why Manchin and Sinema care more about the will of the Republican Party than about the will of the American people.
If it fails, voter suppression will be the law in more than 40 states.
We asked Joe Manchin to reconsider his position.
Did they change your mind?
Now, why would Joe Manchin, a supposed Democrat, be on the wrong side of the bridge? Why would he stand with racists? Why would he vote to suppress black voters? Because Joe Manchin can count. This is the racial composition of the population of West Virginia. 93.9% white, 3.4% black. Joe Manchin is never going to support the rights of black voters in a state where black voters represent 3.4% of the population. More than 50 years after John Lewis and so many other black Americans were beaten in the streets of Selma, I think we know which side of the bridge Joe Manchin would have been on.
Ben, you look impressed.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Every day, all day long, radio, television. Don't let this man get away with being the guy who can smile and glad hand and shake hands and kiss your baby on the cheek. And all the while, he is absolutely on the side of the Republican Party. He's on the wrong side of history. We can't afford to wait for history to write this man's epithet. We need to do it now. And I think that's that clip by Don Winslow is amazing.
Teresa.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the statistics. I mean, you know, it really looks like Joe Manchin is playing right into the hand of his constituent bases. Now, I'm not saying that all, you know, his 93% of Caucasian constituents are in favor or not in favor of this. But what I am saying that it does look like Joe Manchin was elected as a Democrat, but we all know he had moderate to conservative thoughts as it relates to his position on a lot of things, and he's making his position very clear to his constituent bases.
Mustafa.
Well, there's a whole lot of lower wealth white folks that's in West Virginia as well. And these actions that Senator Manchin has refused to move forward on will impact them as well. Of course, it always impacts us first and worst, but some of them are also going to find it much more difficult to be able to move forward. So Senator Manchin should remember that many of the folks throughout the state want him to do the right thing, and he just has not been able to do it so far. And so I hope he has one of those moments where he finally realizes who he's supposed to represent, and we'll see how it plays out.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Everything and nothing at the same time.
You looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these black folks in Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the black folks, the black love here in Essence?
That is fun. That is fun. That is all black love. That's what's significant and different about it. You know, it's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
Sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Exactly. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well. My guys are real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I got to do.
Oh, it's always good seeing you.
Well, thank you so much. I love this.
We got to mix it up a little bit.
I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't have regular pockets. All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments. That, of course, was Shaka Khan from the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. It's unbelievable to listen to that, Teresa, and just the sheer arrogance of Sinema and Manchin.
It really is. You know, it's almost to the point where, you know, the respect factor just isn't there. You know, when I see, you know, activists and constituents just coming in drones, they make the appointments, and then the appointment is supposed to be with the elected official, then it goes to a chief of staff. I've had one of our advocacy events that I did with a nonprofit organization. It was supposed to be with the leader. It ends up being with the scheduler. So that was actually unheard of. And of course, I wrote a letter. It's just like, this should never happen to any other organization or person. But again, it also says, you know, goes to the fact of respect and additional education. So I get the advocate's point that there were 4 senators, you know, instead of them going to the luncheon, instead of going to the other meeting, they actually, you know, were together wanting to have that talk about what can, you know, actually happen to make this work. But again, it's like all these meetings, it just seems like there's no results here. So it's like, I'm not sure what we should do, as I am not a lawmaker, but I think there has to be another sort of alternative, because you have somebody where thousands of people, you know, are asking them to change their mind. And then when we're asking for solidified solutions, we're not getting it, but we're getting a bunch of, oh, I agree with this, and we should go with this, and we should put that in a dialogue. So I'm just waiting for the solution here.
The thing here is very simple, Mustafa. There are no alternatives. I mean, this is what happens when, bottom line is this here. It's 50-50. One senator wields this much power. If Sinema and Manchin go, nope, I'm not going to do it, guess what? You have nowhere to go. You can't pass the bill. And then, of course, you can't pass the bill unless you break the filibuster. The two of them keep talking bipartisan, and I keep saying, show me the 10. Show me the 10 on the other side who are going to go along with this, and they can't.
Well, you know, my grandmother says, when you know better, do better. I can only really speak about Senator Manchin since I, you know, was raised in Appalachia and, of course, over in Michigan a little bit. So I decided to get on the phone. And I decided to call folks back home in West Virginia, across the state, both Democrats and Republicans who I knew. Now, these are what you might still label as somewhat moderate Republicans. Yeah, some still exist. So I called folks in Parkersburg and Wheeling and Charleston and Institute and Clarksburg and Fairmont. And I asked them, I said, should Senator Manchin actually support the bills that folks have put forward that's actually going to make things better for our country, make us stronger? And it was like 85% of the folks said yes. So we got to make sure that folks inside the states are actually pushing these folks and letting them know that if they don't get their act together, then they may not be holding these offices in the future. Now, I'm not threatening anyone. What I am sharing is what everyday hardworking folks in the state of West Virginia are saying what their expectations are. And their expectations also line up with the polling that folks have been sharing across the country. And it's probably not that different in Arizona, but I like to ground truth stuff, and I like to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, because I actually talk to real people about real issues. And this is what many folks in West Virginia are saying.
Ben, at the end of the day, it's pressure, it's pressure, it's pressure. You really have no choice. You use every single thing at your disposal, and I think you unleash it against these two, and there's no let up. And I need people, I got to remind people, and I think it's a little hard for a lot of people today to understand how long the Civil Rights Bill was filibustered and fought by the Southern Dixiecrats in the 60s. Kennedy proposed it when he came in after he won in 61. He gets killed November 22nd, 63. It doesn't get passed until it was broken up by LBJ. He said, I can't get all at one time. So to 64, that was 3 years later. Then, of course, 65, the Voting Rights Act. Then, of course, 68, the Fair Housing Act. So that was an 8-year effort just with Kennedy, LBJ. I'm not saying that, oh my goodness, we should be waiting 8 years. But what I am saying is, to people who want to see it done, we have to be in this for the long haul. It's not going to always happen in 2 or 3 months.
Absolutely. It won't happen in that short of a time frame, especially not with our intransigent Congress in general, or Senate specifically. But I do want to tap into one of the things that you were saying, Roland. We can't let up on these politicians, especially Sinema and Manchin. And I think in one way that we let up on them is by having these meetings with them at this juncture, because they've shown a level of disrespect. They've shown a level of disrespect in terms of these politicians, these elected officials' time. They've shown a level of disrespect in terms of their unwillingness to even really consider this. Joe Manchin's already said he's coming out against H.R. 1. And I don't care how many times they meet with us and seem like they're concerned. At the end of the day, they're gaslighting us. And we need to call them on it. We need to say it in the media. We need to say it on the news. We need to say it on the radio, that we have 2 Democratic senators that are gaslighting us and do not care about the black vote enough to even help protect it.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
What's going on? Everything and nothing at the same time.
You looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these black folks in Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the black folks, the black love here at Essence?
That is what? That is what? That is all black love. That's what's significant and different about it. You know, it's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
I'm sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Think that. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well for me. God's been real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I gotta do.
Oh, it's always good seeing you.
Well, thank you so much. I love this.
We gotta mix it up a little bit.
I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't get regular pockets. All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments. That, of course, was Shaka Khan from the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that.